Well, good evening, everyone. We thank you all for being in attendance on tonight for our monthly education session. We have a dynamic speaker that is going to bring some great information to you this evening. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have at the end of her presentation. She is here to answer any questions that you all have. By the way, I am Diamondell. I am with Parkland Community Health Plan. We love to bring informed education to the community. So if you all have more education ideas or needs that you want for us to bring to the community at large, we are here to do so. Feel free to follow us on our Facebook page, Parkland Community Health Plan, as well as our YouTube page. This information will be found on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook. So like us and share us, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. I am now going to turn it over to Ms. Kate for the presentation this evening.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We are going to talk about managing meltdowns today. The goal in this is to provide co-regulation to support children's mental health. So this is going to be great for anybody who works with kids, honestly, in general. So parents, caregivers, if you're an aunt, uncle, whatever your role is in a child's life, teacher, some of these skills I hope will support you in working with kiddos. A little bit about me. So I have my Master's of Science in Counseling from the University of North Texas. I do have experience working in community clinics, nonprofit agencies, and elementary schools. That is clinical experience as well. I am a play therapist, so I'm a licensed professional counselor, and currently I work at Mommies in Need. Another little fun fact about me, I love to travel, dance, and play. Before we start, I do want to just take a second to get grounded. I have this fun little graphic. It's from Coping Skills for Kids. At the end, I have a link. If you're able to access that, but you can go to just Google Coping Skills for Kids and find this resource. And we're actually going to do this. It's called box breathing. And so I'll guide us through this a little bit. This is just an opportunity for us to get grounded, reset, let go of whatever was going on today or right before you're watching this and joining us. So we're going to start at that green light at the bottom, and we're going to follow the car around this lake. Again, just kind of a fun graphic to get kiddos involved. I will also say before we start this, the first time that I did it definitely was hard for me to hold for 4 seconds. So if that's uncomfortable, feel free to just continue to breathe in and out. So you can breathe in for 8, out for 8, whatever feels comfortable. Don't make yourself uncomfortable. So if you want to start, I'm just going to invite everybody to get both of your feet planted into the ground, get into a comfortable seat. You can close your eyes if you'd like, or you can leave them open. And you can rest your hands just on your legs facing down if you'd like to invite some calm as we go into this presentation today, or upward if you'd like to invite in some energy. So we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to go through this about 4 or 5 times till it feels right. So we're going to go ahead and breathe in through your nose. And then we're going to hold for 4 seconds. And then breathing out through your mouth. Hold. Breathing in. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathing out. And hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathing in. And hold. Breathing out. And hold. We'll do that one more time. Breathing in. And hold. Breathing out. And hold. As you start to return to your regular breath, breathing in and out how you normally would, you can wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, start to flutter your eyes open, so that you are back. And I hope that helps you to feel a little bit more calm in this moment as we go in. I do have a lot of information for us today. I got a little ambitious. So also if we go through anything too fast, we can do questions at the end, or this is recorded so you can come back to it. This one too, the breathing. So this is something you can use anytime, but I also love to do it when I'm washing my hands. Was a fun way that I learned from another organization where you do the box breathing. That's going to get you to 16 seconds, and then share what you're grateful for with yourself. That sometimes can take about 4 seconds to think of something and to actually say it to yourself in your mind. So I know for me, I'm very grateful right now to have this opportunity to get to talk to y'all about children's mental health. It's something I'm very passionate about. Cool. Also, before we start, I want to really quickly go over Mommies in Needs. That's the organization that I'm a part of. The main purpose of Mommies in Need is to provide care for kids so families can access health care. Parents should never have to choose between taking care of their own health and having safe and loving care for their children. This does also include caregivers. What was born out of one mom's personal experience and passion has grown into a powerful source of hope in our community. Since its inception in 2014, Mommies in Need has provided tens of thousands of hours of free childcare. And if you want more information on Mommies in Need, you just go to mommiesinneed.org, or if you Google us, it'll come up. Annie's Place, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second, is our childcare center on Parkland campus. So a little bit about what we do. We are a nonprofit serving families undergoing medical situations or seeking just your general medical care. Like I said, we're on Parkland campus at 2131 Butler Street. So over by, if you've ever been over there by the Arby's on Harry Hines, we're like right down the street from there. We do provide free daycare for families to seek medical services. We also provide free play therapy. So that's where I come in. And that's going to be for families experiencing a medical crisis where the child is impacted. We're noticing changes in that kiddo's behavior or their mental health, right? And then lastly, we also have an in-home program for families going through a medical crisis. All of this can be found at our website as well. And if you know someone or you would like to apply for the in-home nanny program or sign up for the free childcare, again, that's during medical appointments, but that is on our website, or you can call us. Okay, so now to get into the nitty gritty. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to discuss the purpose of co-regulation. Again, that's that key piece of managing these meltdowns. Then we're going to I'm going to provide you with some skills to support co-regulation. That's going to be the bulk of what we talk about today. And then we're briefly going to go over how to identify when to seek a mental health professional. So when that becomes more than just a meltdown. So briefly, what is a meltdown? Just so we are all on the same page here. What are those common causes? What is happening, right? So a lot of times it can be that sensory overload, maybe really bright lights, really loud noises. We might see that be a trigger for a meltdown. Or an activating event, right? A child may be experiencing frustration over difficulty to communicate. So they're having a really hard time sharing what they would like out of the situation, right? Or a disappointment when reality differs from their expectations. I know that can happen for a lot of us. Maybe the kid wanted to go to the pool, but now it's raining, right? And so that can be a trigger for a meltdown. At the end of the day, though, you know your child best. You're going to know what their trigger is. You know that child better than most people. So, and if it's a kiddo that you don't know as well, these are some common causes, right? But this is not an exhaustive list. So how do we know a meltdown is going on, right? What are these visual signs that we're seeing? So we might see a kiddo kicking, screaming, they may be sucking their thumb, throwing toys, crying, might see some hitting, they're trying to leave, like physically leave the room or the building, or whine, right? We might get a lot of whining, complaining. Another way to think about these, so while these are the visual signs I think we can all agree on, of a meltdown, these are also coping skills that children know. So you'll see just a little title shift there on the slide. This is the way that kids know how to respond to their emotions when they are angry, when they are upset, disappointed, frustrated, etc. This is what they are going to do. So now where does that co-regulation come in? Co-regulation is when adults, and that's us, right, who have fully developed brains, use their skills to help children learn how to manage their emotions and actions. We want to move children from this dysregulated state where they are feeling overwhelmed or out of control to a regulated state where they feel more connected to and in control of themselves. So this is what this whole piece is of co-regulation. And I love this kind of idea. The most important thing that children need from caregivers is support for co-regulation. Of course, that's after basic needs are met. But what they're really needing from us as caregivers is that support to co-regulate on how are we going to manage these emotions, right? How do we move from that dysregulated to regulated? And I want to highlight too that being regulated doesn't necessarily mean being calm and happy, but instead feeling connected to the feeling that they're feeling and feeling in control of their actions, right? You can still be frustrated and be regulated. That dysregulated, maybe that overwhelm out of control. So maybe a way to explain it is when their emotions feel so big that they don't know what to do. Okay. So I have this little video going into a little bit about how co-regulation can look even in infants. And we'll talk a little bit more after. But this is a study that they did on parents and their interaction with their baby.
Is there supposed to be sound?
Oh no, is there no sound for you?
No.
Oh no. Okay. Man, I don't know how to share that. Well, that's going to make all of these videos really interesting. Okay, I guess we will pivot. I will just describe what's happening here as we're watching it. So we'll start it over. So this is Tronic. He is looking at how the infant is responding. Um, Maybe captions? I don't know. I'm like, maybe I can read the captions as we go. Well, okay, maybe this is a video to look up later. I would recommend just watching the first half. Um, but essentially, I really wish we could have the sound. Let me see. I don't think there's a way for me to do that though. Okay, well, so the baby becomes fussy if you notice and he kind of looks away. That's him using the skills that he knows to regulate. So let's see if we can find a clip of that. Let's see. You see him kind of like he's overstimulated, right? Like we were talking about at the beginning, getting a little bit too much stimulation. And so he goes to his own kind of turn away. Let's see. You can see him. He looks a little fussy, right? He doesn't look like he's feeling super great. And he kind of turns away. He looks to his hands. He's trying to get a little bit less stimulation. Then you notice mom come in, around here. So he's getting that little break. You see her react, you see her facial expression, and now he's able to re-engage. Like he says in the captions, you see that kind of they're in sync with one another, and it's kind of this emotional dance where he's smiling, she's smiling back, and vice versa. So the cool part about this video is that I think it shows really that natural piece of it that that some of this is very natural, right? Especially when they're younger. We're picking up the body language, and so we're going to go over some skills today. Here we go. On what we can do as adults, caregivers to support this. So these are kind of the internal things we're going to look at, understanding the brain a little bit. I'll explain the video for that one too, I guess. And then some breathing and grounding techniques, and then self-talk as a skill for regulation. Okay, so really quick, understanding parts of the brain. You do not have to remember the names for this, but well, it's going to help the next video that I will describe make more sense. So we have the prefrontal cortex. That's going to be the part right behind your forehead. You can see kind of that black line highlighting the front of the brain. This is where all of our reasoning and decision making happens. This is where our problem solving and logic happens, as well as impulse control. Then you see the arrow pointing to the limbic system, which is kind of that, it's lower in the brain, right? And there's this little dot in there that's called the amygdala, and that's a big piece of this. But the limbic system is going to be focused on survival constantly for safety or danger. This is going to create or flight response, if you've heard of that before, which is a reaction. It is not a thought process, right? Your brain, this part of your brain is telling you, get out of here or we need to fight. And now they've extended it to fawn and freeze, which are other ones. But anyway, that's all part of this system. It does store that historical and contextual information. Again, that's going back to so that you have that historical information so you can stay safe, sticking in that survival mode. That is super great if there is a lion or a bear in front of you and that's not really a time to be thinking. That is a time for your brain to take over to keep you safe. And then later we can go back to our prefrontal cortex, back to our reasoning and decision making, our logic, all of that fun stuff. Luckily, though, that's not what we face most of the time, right? We're not typically coming across very dangerous situations like that, such as bears, lions, all that good stuff. But our fight or flight response is still kicking. It is still going. And then on the left, you'll see a little fun fact. So the prefrontal cortex does not finish developing until the age of 25. So this is why that impulse control is still difficult for teenagers, and especially our kiddos, because that piece of the brain is still developing, right? So that logic, problem solving, impulse control. However, that limbic system, the piece that is our safety, our fight or flight, is working full force as soon as we are born. So this video is Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. I guess I'll just describe while he is talking about it. So he's talking about how he likes to study brain science and apply it to the experience of parenting. And so you'll see his hand, that thumb part. Well, I guess I'll describe in a second. So the thumb is going to be that limbic system, what he calls the downstairs of the brain. You see the way he closes it? It kind of looks like your brain, right? With your arm being the brain stem. So his point is that we can change what the brain does when we understand it. So he's going to talk about the structures. He's holding his hand out, that spinal cord at the bottom, which is that little piece that hangs off, and then skull is that limbic system, right? That fight or flight is regulating arousal and emotions and the way that you have fight or freeze. Okay, and then you're going to wrap your fingers over. That's the prefrontal cortex part. That's the higher part of the brain that helps you perceive the outside world and think and reason. So, like we said, that's the part right behind your forehead. And it's going to regulate the rest of the brain. Yeah, that's a great part of this. So sometimes we have all sorts of things happen in life, right? We're tired, exhausted. Someone pushes a particular emotional button and we, what he calls, flip our lid. So instead of being tuned in and connected and balanced and flexible, we lose all of that. And we lose that reasoning and might act in ways, well, he's talking about we can act in ways that are terrifying to others and including our children. But when we can come back online, right, we've regulated ourselves, then we can engage appropriately. And so his point is that you could teach this to your children as young as 5 or 6 to help understand their emotions. Again, using more like downstairs brain, upstairs brain, decision-making versus emotions, so that kids could actually come and tell him, which has happened for him, that they're going to flip their lids and they need a break or they need a timeout, or even just naming that they are going through that can help them to tame it. And so that's the power of the hand model. Um, I'm trying to ad lib the captions a little bit, but we'll just stop there. So that is the hand model of the brain. If we can go back really quick, you can see again that prefrontal cortex, that's the part of your fingers. And then if you open it, that's the that downstairs part. And so the idea is flipping your lid is when those fingers come up. And then that downstairs brain is in control. And so we want to name it to tame it. This is the goal of the co-regulation, is to support the child and bringing that thinking brain back online, bringing that hand back, those fingers back over your thumb. I hope that makes sense. Cool. So that is our first skill, is understanding the brain. So we're going to move into breathing, breath work, grounding techniques, that good stuff. Side note, we did do that to start today as well. So that's a skill that you've already practiced. And now here's a little bit of the science behind it. So neuroscience shows that slow, deep breaths are most effective for calming your body. It sends signals to your brain that you're safe. Remember that fight or flight, that feels like we're not safe. But sometimes we really are. And so taking those long, deep breaths is going to bring that thinking brain back online, send a message to your brain that you're actually safe and that everything's okay. Or that it will be, right? Sometimes we're stressed, but we're generally safe. This can also help. You want to breathe out longer than you breathe in. So this is another way to breathe besides the box breathing that we did earlier. So you can breathe in for 4 seconds and breathe out for 8. So breathing in and breathing out longer than that. Hope y'all can hear that. Another one that you can use, again, I know I'm kind of speeding through this, but you can come back to it to look at this. This is from De-Stress Monday. It's like a whole program. So they have lots of different breathing techniques and grounding techniques that you can use to support this. This one is one of my favorite though. It's the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. And this is going to help ease your state of mind in stressful moments. I'll share too, one time for this breathing piece, breathing out longer than breathing in, I know there was a time where I watched these cars almost get in a wreck and they didn't, thank goodness, but my fight or flight was triggered just seeing that happen, even though I was not in the state, like I was not in danger, right? And so I'm still driving, and in order to let my body know that I was safe, I did my deep breathing to say, hey, that was really scary and I'm safe. So just as a personal example, this is one that I like to use as well in times that get a little stressful. So you're going to use your 5 senses. So your sight, touch, sound, hearing, smell, and taste. So the goal, if you were to do this all the way through, is to acknowledge 5 things that you can see around you. So for example, right now I can see my water bottle, I can see my computer, I can see a little picture that I have that says we can do hard things, I can see a plant, etc. Then acknowledging 4 things that you can touch around you. So one that I like to use a lot is clothing. So you can feel, the pants, dress, skirt, whatever you're wearing. What does that feel like? The shirt, what is that material? And you can actually touch it and feel it. You can acknowledge 3 things that you can hear around you. Right now I can hear, it sounds like maybe wind blowing outside. I can't tell exactly what it is, but the goal is to tune in, right, to what you can hear around you. You can acknowledge 2 things that you smell around you. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes there's just one, and that's why I have my little side note on the side. And one thing that you can taste. So it could also be you pick up stuff to smell, right? I have a candle near me, so maybe I pick that up and I smell it. Oh, it smells pretty good. Or you have a candy or water or something that you can take near you and you can taste that. Maybe you're chewing gum, right? What I love about this one though is that even if you don't remember all 5 or the quote unquote correct order, 'cause there's not really a correct order, you can just use your senses. That's the key piece of this, to bring you into the present moment. And again, with that goal, regulating your nervous system, letting your body know that you are safe. Like I said, sometimes I can't really do all of them, but even if I just do a few, if I try to engage my senses and bring myself back to the present moment instead of worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow or later today or what just happened 10 minutes ago, right? That I can come back to this present moment. Again, you can go to destressmonday.org and they have lots of, they have destressmonday.org. They have some other like Motivation Monday and stuff like that. But this one has all those different breathing skills and they're pretty kid friendly. Okay, so next we're going to go into self-talk. So we're using this self-talk as regulation, right? What is self-talk? Self-talk are the messages that you say to yourself. So these can be positive, negative, or neutral. A positive message of self-talk is going to show belief and confidence in whatever the self-talk is about. A negative self-talk is going to be a limiting statement. So it's going to often use words like always or never, but it's kind of limits what can happen, what the potentials are. And then we have neutral. So this allows for a different outcome and it's going to create opportunity. It's not positive. It's not negative. It's just what it is. It's acknowledging the facts, acknowledging maybe the history, right? But not assuming whether it's going to turn out positive or negative. It's just neutral. So I have some examples that we can look at. So I want you to think to yourself for a minute, this example, they never clean their room. We're going to think, is that positive, negative, or neutral? I'll give you a second to answer that in your head. Okay, if you said negative, you are right. And that clue, again, is that never, right? But how many times do we say this? Oh, they just never clean their room. I was about to say another example, but we'll get to those. So what are we going to do to change this? We can just take out that never and let's see what we can come up with. Possibly they have a hard time cleaning their room. Maybe they're not sure where to start when it comes to cleaning their room. Maybe it is, and these are neutral statements, maybe it is they need support in cleaning their room, right? So maybe the kiddo needs help. Hey, can you put all the stuffed animals away in the bin wherever they go? And they're like, okay, that's an easy task, right? I can do that. Maybe when they look at this picture, they're like, I don't even know where to start. So maybe, pick up everything that's yellow and put it in its place, right? We can make it a game too. Okay, next one. They struggle to get up in the morning. You can think for a second, is that positive? Is that negative? Or is it neutral? Okay, and I'll go ahead and reveal. This one is actually neutral. It's just a statement of fact for this kiddo, not this kiddo, but for the kiddo that we're thinking about, maybe it's hard for them to get up in the morning. That doesn't mean that they will or won't have a hard time today, but generally I know they struggle to get up in the morning. If we want to take it to that next step of how we can support, they struggle to get up in the morning. They need an alarm clock. They benefit from, or they do better when they get a full night's sleep, right? But again, this is kind of that self-talk. These are the messages that we're thinking in our head about this kid before we're interacting with them, before it's happening. Okay, next one. I am a safe space for them. Think about that one for a second. This one, I'm going to say positive. Maybe you said neutral, but I'm going to say positive because I think this is showing that belief in myself that I can be a safe space for this child. Okay. And I think this is the last one. They always refuse to share. You're about to bring your kid to a play date. And maybe this isn't even about your kid. Maybe this is about the kid that they're about to play with. They always refuse to share. If you guessed negative, you were right. Again, that clue in there is going to be always. So I'm going to go ahead and take this a step further. How can we shift this? We're going to take out that always refuse and shift it. Maybe you can think for a second on what you might want to say. I'll share what I had, which is it's difficult for them to share. Maybe they're an only child and it's difficult for them to share. Maybe they have a lot of siblings and they always have to share, so maybe it's difficult for them to share. We can just change our language so that we're not assuming what's going to happen on this play date or what's going to happen when we let our kiddos play together. Cool. So now we will move into skills to use with kids. The skills we're going to talk about are nonverbal cues of safety, empathic listening and validation, and then we're going to talk about redirection, which is other ways to say no. Because I don't know about you, but it is not fun to always say no. So these nonverbal cues of safety, fun fact, 70 to 93% of what we communicate is actually nonverbal. That's a range because also kind of depends on what you say. The main idea here is that majority of what we're communicating is actually nonverbal. Which I am missing a big piece of today, right? Not being here with you. I don't get to share a lot of those nonverbals. You can't see a lot of these things. Only one of these things on this list, I'm able to communicate nonverbally today. I'll let you guess once we're done going through them. So we have facial expression. That's going to be the movement of the numerous muscles in your face. Are we smiling? Are we frowning? Is it somewhere in between? We're communicating a lot with the expression on our face. Gestures, so moving part of the body, usually a hand or head to express idea or meaning. I am definitely a hand talker. You just cannot see that today, but I'm still doing it as if you could. Eye contact, so are they looking into one another's eyes, right? Are they paying attention or not, right? That's going to communicate something to us. And so when we're trying to communicate safety, we want that eye contact, right? I guess we'll get to that. For posture, the position that we're sitting in, so the way that someone holds their body when they're standing or sitting. Are their arms crossed? Are their arms open? Are they standing, right? And lastly, tone of voice. So that's going to be the pitch and pace with which something is said. If you did not guess which one that I'm using right now, it is tone of voice. So that besides just hearing the words that I'm saying or reading the words on the screen, you're able to understand what I mean a little bit by my tone of voice. So to go through how are we going to communicate this safety? So from our facial expressions, we want to see, and this is not written here, this is just me talking. We want a neutral expression, right? Neutrality is the name of the game here. Because if we're happy and we're coming to them like this, remember the kid in the video? He wasn't feeling that in the moment, right? He was a little overwhelmed by that. But if we come to them like this, but you heard my voice and you can imagine what my facial expression might have looked like. It's going to communicate something different. Gestures, right? So, and this kind of goes with posture. Am I standing over the child while I'm trying to comfort them? Or I'm going to go back really quick because this picture was really helpful. Honestly, what is this communicating? I'm seeing that he cares for this child, right? We can be eye to eye with the child, that can help. But honestly, the way that he is even lower than the child, it's communicating something, right? It's communicating that he cares. And the way he's looking at her, again, that's showing that or maybe that's a boy, I'm not sure. When he's looking at this child, he's seeing he's looking at them, right? And so that communicates care, that communicates safety, that communicates I'm being seen right now. The physical touch, you're going to have to gauge, is the child open to physical touch? But in this point, in this picture, it does look like he's comforting this child, and that the child is open to it. Say the child pulls that left hand away, that's going to communicate the child is not open to physical touch right now. So we're not going to use that anymore, right? We're going to skip back ahead. And then tone of voice, again, just how we're saying it. How we're saying what we say is sometimes more important than what we actually say. So this video, while I don't have sound, is fine because it is to demonstrate nonverbals. We're going to miss out on that pitch, so it might be a little bit difficult, but we're going to watch this, and I want you to see which ones you're seeing. Are you like, what are you relying on, right? Those gestures, eye contact, body posture, and facial expressions, right? And yeah, facial expression, gesture, eye contact, and the posture. And are we still able to understand when we only have those things? Now it's going to be a little harder that we don't have the tone of their voices and the pitch, but we're still going to watch it and see if we can understand. Oh no, I skipped it. Okay, let's start over. Here we see some facial expression. Different eye contact going on. They seem kind of curious. Oh, something happened that made them upset, frustrated. Now they've physically moved away from them. Looks like they've got an idea. Looks like the other ones are happy about it. Oh, they're starting to notice some things. Trying to communicate with each other, but it was too late. Okay, so I hope that was a little bit of a humorous story to watch. Um, but there's so much that we're able to understand while nobody's saying anything, right? We didn't, well, I could hear it, but you didn't even have the pitch that they were using, whether it was higher, lower, right? But we still understood everything that happened there. So that is my fun little demonstration of our how much we communicate through our nonverbals. Cool. So we are going to move into empathic listening and validation. I love this quote from Anne Meehan. She's another play therapist up in the north. But no matter if you agree or disagree with what has triggered dysregulation for a child, they are still in incredible amounts of pain and dysregulation. And for some kids, what they are going through in that moment of dysregulation may be one of the hardest things in their young life. When we can have empathy and validate the pain for children and be with them, healing and regulation almost always occur. Also, remember that validation and empathy does not mean agreement. So I think she captured that really, really well on what we're doing here, right? Again, sometimes what they're going through might be the hardest thing that they've been through yet in their life. And while we have been through a lot more than some of these kiddos, we can still provide that empathy, right? Maybe you have a friend who's been through worse than you, but that doesn't negate what you're going through. Maybe you have a friend who's hasn't been through what you've been through. Again, they can still provide that empathy and validate what you're feeling. And this is the same for kids. And this is a huge piece in being able to help them to regulate. So we've talked about our body language, how we can communicate that safety to co-regulate with them. Again, I guess I didn't say this yet, but co-regulation is going to require that you feel regulated as well. If you are feeling dysregulated, which is totally normal, that's where that breath work is going to come in, those grounding techniques. So how are we going to do this? So first, we're going to respond to this is what we're doing. We're responding to their emotions with a simple sentence, okay? So number one, we're going to look into the child's eyes for a clue to how they're feeling, right? We're relying on that nonverbal to see how are they feeling. After you've decided what the child is feeling, you're going to put that feeling into a short response, generally beginning with the word you. For example, you seem sad, or you're really mad at me right now, right? Maybe we just had to take a toy away and they're really upset. You're really mad at me right now. Or they can't go outside because it's raining, right? That's very fitting for today and I think this week. But that's not something we have control over, but maybe they're still mad at you, right? Maybe like, it's your fault. You won't let me. So you're really mad at me right now. Third step to this is your facial expression and tone of voice should match your child's. The empathy is conveyed through those nonverbals more so than your verbals. So I can say, you seem sad. That sounds like I don't understand, right? I'm a little judgy. Or if I'm like, hey, you seem sad, then it's really not fitting with the moment either, right? So I really want to connect to what they're feeling in the moment. And I want to convey that empathy that I really do care through my voice and my facial expression. So which you can't see right now, but you can hear my voice, right? You seem sad. Right? I care. Again, that's going to sound different for everybody. There's not really a right or wrong, but we really want to communicate that through our nonverbals. And that might also be my shoulders are facing towards you, and my toes, my whole body, right, is going to show that I care more than if just half of my body is turned. I realize it's going backwards, but they'll kind of build off each other. So I have a little example here. So on the left, we have with the same situation on the left and right, but on the left, we have denying the feeling. So little girl is sad. She says, my turtle is dead. He was alive this morning. Parent says, oh, no, don't get so upset, honey. Because it's hard to see our kids upset, right? But look at her face. She's more upset. He says, don't cry. It's only a turtle. And then she starts to cry, right? Wah, wah. He says, stop that. I'll buy you another turtle. She's trying to fix the situation. Like, oh my gosh, okay, we'll get a new one. And she says, but I don't want another one. And he says, now you're being unreasonable, right? Because it's very logical. Your turtle died. Okay, we'll get you a new one. No problem. At the bottom, it's really small, but it says it's strange when we urge a child to push a bad feeling away, however kindly, the child seems to get only more upset. Right. So he's trying to be super kind. You can even see his body language, right? He's at her level. He's using his physical gesture. And the second one, that don't cry, it's a turtle. His whole body is now turned to her. He's making that eye contact. But it's not quite enough. And then we can see in the bottom, it looks like he's getting a little frustrated. And she's getting more upset too, right? Now we have two people who are dysregulated. When at the beginning of this, we had the little girl's a little dysregulated, right? Because of her turtle. That's really upsetting. And parent here, caregiver, whoever he is, seems to be pretty regulated in the first two, but when she continues to cry, he gets a little upset. So on the right, we're going to see when we give that feeling a name. And he's going to do this multiple times. That is hard to do, but just to give us a couple different examples. So he says, or the little girl says, my turtle is dead. He was alive this morning. Dad's a parent, caregiver, whoever this is, says, oh, what a shock, right? And we want that our tone of voice to match. So, oh, what a shock. Oh, no, right? No, we care. Oh, no, what a shock. Little girl says, he was my friend. So she's continued on now, right? Instead of crying and shutting down, she's continuing to share how she feels. He was my friend. This guy says, to lose a friend can hurt, right? He's still reflecting that feeling that she's hurting. She says, I taught him to do tricks. So she's continuing to share with us. He says, you two had fun together. She says, I fed him every day. He says, you really cared about that turtle. And so this is from a book called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk, by Adele Faber and Elaine Maslish. It's a great book. They have some other versions as well, including How to Talk So Adolescents Will Listen and Listen So Adolescents Will Talk, or teens, I think. How to Listen So Teens Will Talk and Talk So Teens Will Listen. That's a whole nother challenge, right? And then they have another one for younger kids, How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen and Listen So Little Kids Will Talk. But parents don't usually give this kind of response because they fear that by giving a name to the feeling, they make it worse, right? We're afraid that if I say that this hurt, that now she's going to cry. And she did. She is crying in this. But it's a different cry than on the left side, right? And so, but just the opposite is true. The child who hears the words for what she is experiencing is deeply comforted. Someone has acknowledged her inner experience. So I wonder if this has ever happened where you've gone to a friend, a peer, a parent, someone in your life, a partner, where you have shared something and they've done one of these two things, right? They either kind of write it off, oh, don't even worry about it, it's not a big deal. Or they say, man, that sounds really hard. Right? On the one hand, on the left side, we're going to defend how we feel because we really do feel this way. And on the right, we don't have to defend it because it's accepted and acknowledged. And so we can continue to move on, right? She got up and took the box with the turtle to wherever they're going to take it. Awesome. So I will try to wrap. This is our last one. So we have redirection, different ways to say no, right? Because saying no is not fun. It's not fun to hear. And so this is another way that we can say no. So we want to provide appropriate choices to both the caregiver and the child. We can also point to the choices. That's going to be helpful. You can see in the picture, this man is holding I'm assuming 2 blocks. We can see one, but I'm assuming 2 blocks to the child, offering a, do you want to use the blue block or do you want to use the red block? I don't know what color the other one is. I'm just guessing. And so, or maybe the kid just threw the block. And so he says, hey, if you'd like to play with the blocks, you can choose to stack them, right? Instead of saying, no, don't hit, or don't throw those. You can say something like, oh, the blocks aren't for throwing, but in the end, we want to redirect the behavior. Oh, I know you're angry, but we can rebuild the tower. You can build it like this. Which color should we start with, right? To rebuild this tower that maybe it just fell. So other examples, you can choose to play with that toy or that toy, and we're pointing to them, right? Especially for our younger ones, for our 2, 3, even 4 or 5, we really want to point because especially if their lid is flipped, right? If those fingers, if we're holding it over our thumb, are coming up and that downstairs brain is in charge and thinking, we're really going to want to tame that. So we're going to respond to the feeling and then helping with that prefrontal cortex, with that part right behind the brain that does the choice, makes the choices and all the logic. When we're pointing, we're giving it something very tangible to decide from. I'll come back to the examples, but you can see the picture of this person holding an apple and a pear, right? So offering 2 fruit options. Kid really wants a cookie with his lunch. Oh, well, these are the choices we have right now, or for a snack, right? Whatever it is as the caregiver that you want to offer. We have an apple or a pear. Which would you like? And physically holding them in front of the child can be really helpful. I know at Annie's place, one time we had a kiddo, we kept asking him, hey, are you hungry? Do you want to eat? And he just wouldn't answer us or would say no. And I told the teacher, I said, hey, maybe let's grab some snacks and hold them up. So when we took them out and physically held them in front of the child and say, would you like this one or this one? Then the child said, oh, I want that one, and sat down to eat. So sometimes it just helps get their attention off of whatever their attention was on, and we're redirecting them to this appropriate behavior or to the choices that we have available, right? Sorry, I don't have a cookie right now, but I have goldfish and I have applesauce. So which would you like, right? Another example, if they're having difficulty playing together, so this kiddo doesn't want to share, and so we're like, hey, you know what? Well, you can choose to share with your sibling, or you can choose to play with the blocks. You can use their names, right? It helps to again get that thinking brain back online. Maybe you're leaving and they want to run off. You're going to the car and they just want to run off, or you're crossing the street. You can just simply offer them that choice. Hey, you can hold my hand or you can walk next to me. And again, it gives their brain something to focus on. And so, oh, I forgot this one was in here. So we have choices as well. This is just another way to think about it, is once you and your child have identified how they feel, you can go to something like a choice wheel and choose what to do with that feeling. So this one is an example that I actually purchased this poster off of Amazon. You can also buy it from the website directly, My Moods, My Choices. I think it's around $10 to $15, and it comes with a feelings poster and then a choices poster. So when a kid again is dysregulated, this is another skill to bring them over to the poster. They also have a little book that we have in every single classroom at Annie's place, where a kid can go, so they can go to the poster, identify their feeling, go look at the book, and flip it to the other side that describes the feeling, how it feels in their body, and then some choices that they can make for each feeling, right? So this one is a great choice as well. To look at the whole feelings wheel. Of course, not all these are going to make sense for every feeling, but it's just a very visual way to represent to a child, now we're going to do something, right? You're really sad. We've identified that you feel sad. So what do we want to do about that? Do you want to talk with an adult right here at the bottom? We can draw a picture. We can write about it, again, depending on where the kiddo's at. Read a book. This is one of my favorites. When a kiddo is having a hard time, especially if they're having a hard time being away from their parent, because maybe it's their first time in childcare over at Annie's place. We have a great book called Waiting is Not Forever. And so I'll sit and read that with them. We can exercise. Maybe you're feeling really excited and now is not a time, right? So maybe we can do some exercise. Make a silly face. We can sing. Anyway, it has a lot of examples of different things that you can do. Yes. Okay. And then the last piece, we're just going to briefly go over this of when counseling might be helpful. And you can see on the right are two examples of what a counseling room might look like for play therapy and then activity therapy, which is typically for that 12 and up range. Play therapy typically around 3 to 10. And then once they're older, moving into talk therapy as adults might. So if you're noticing that your child's behavior changes do not go away or they get worse, if your child is unusually sad, angry, or withdrawn, if you're concerned that your child may harm themselves or others, that is definitely a time to seek that professional help. If your child has experienced a potentially traumatic event, I say potentially traumatic because trauma is different for everybody, right? Some people after maybe they get in a car wreck, can carry on and get in a car the next day. Some people can't. It just depends how you were feeling right in that fight or flight, what else was going on, what else you've been through in life, all of that. It can change how you respond to this event. But if your child has gone through that, it might be helpful to just talk to someone and see if maybe your child could benefit from therapy. If your child has frequent tantrums or is intensely irritable much of the time, so you've tried all these skills, nothing is working, nothing is helping, they still are just upset, irritable all the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, right? See, I caught myself using some of that limiting language, right? All, always, never. But if they're irritable a lot of the time, if your child often talks about fears or worries, like you're talking about it a lot, or you're feeling like it's a lot, right? Because at the end of the day, too, you can trust your gut on what feels okay and what doesn't. If your child is complaining about frequent stomach aches, headaches, other physical ailments, and there's no known medical cause, that might be a time to seek counseling as well. This is from or you look, if you're looking to learn more about this and you're concerned for your child, the National Institute of Mental Health actually has a really great resource. I did link it on the next slide. So the first one is those coping skills, and that second one is from National Institute of Mental Health. And so they really go in depth. So you can kind of see how you feel. They have a PDF available as well. So you can see if that's what your kid is going through and if you feel like they could benefit from some extra support. And so these are references. These are all the websites, books, etc. that I used. And that is all that I have for today. So I'll leave the resources link up if you want to take a picture of it and go check these out later. The Coping Skills for Kids one, again, is that they have a bunch, but where I got that square where the car's driving around, the lake for the breathing, and they have a bunch. And so they have a free printable that you can get. And if you're at Andy's place and you want one, let me know and I will print one for you. Or you can just, go to your local library, or if you have access to a printer at home or wherever, to print that and get to use that with your kids and yourself, right? It helps. So Diamondell, I will turn it back to you. If anybody has any questions I can answer. I know that was a lot of information.
That was awesome information, Kate. But yeah, we'll give anyone a minute in case they have any questions. Awesome. Kate, we thank you so much for providing this awesome presentation over mental health, helping to, create or bridge the gap between, the adults, the parents or caregivers with their child and the resources for that. So anyone watching this video after the live session has ended, if you know that you're in need of services for your child, don't hesitate to reach out to Parkland Community Health Plan. We can always get you connected to Kate and her team. They have a bundle of resources for you and your family. So we look forward to making sure we are here to help bridge that gap for you all. As stated again, thank you, Kate, for providing this information. I thought that Feelings Wheel was awesome. I have not seen that. So that is a great resource for parents as well, to help kind of in those challenging situations with their children. So for the community at large and our Parkland Community Health Plan members, we thank you for tuning in on this evening. Again, if you have not visited our website, please visit our website at parklandhealthplan.com. We have an abundance of information for members or those that are needing to apply for services, Medicaid services, or even needing assistance with renewing their Medicaid benefits before they expire. If you're watching this video after the fact, you're probably viewing this on our YouTube channel. It is under the Live Your Best Life Health Education series. There are other videos there. And again, if there is a topic that you want us to talk about or bring some education for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. There is an option through our website to send us a message through our community outreach email. So again, like us and follow us, share our information. We are on Facebook. We are on LinkedIn. You can find us on YouTube. We appreciate you guys being here with us this evening, and we say thank you.